It is back to basics this week, and it's got Carl Weathers written all over it.
Who's he?
His name is Carl Weathers, and he's my new acting teacher.
Say what?
Today, I'm going to unpack and explore the newest episode of The Mandalorian, The Siege. The title honestly had me thinking we were going to Mandalore given all that transpired last week. It was still a downright excellent episode with a good laugh here and there, plenty of action and adorableness. Count me in. I highly recommend you go and watch this series and this new episode if you haven't done so already, because we're going to be dissecting every yin and yang this new episode provided us with. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell button, because I'm making this a weekly gig at the moment whilst producing Doctor Who reviews. Now, without further ado, let's get on with the review.
Mon Calamari. Unbelievable.
So yeah, it's kind of weak that the previous episode put Mando on the right track, only to have a pit stop episode jammed in between. Then again, it's not like the episode didn't warn us this would happen. It started with that familiar sound of the hyperdrive failing, and possibly the most adorable sight of Baby Yoda in the show thus far. I was humoured by the idea that Mando believed he could just instruct the child to change a cable or two. With nobody else to talk to in space, he's gonna at least try, right? The moment Mando said,
"But don't let them touch,"
I knew exactly what was going to happen. It makes him look like such an irresponsible father figure, yet simultaneously I'd love to know how a human-sized being would fix this up otherwise. This really must be a pre-Empire ship. Mando then asked Baby Yoda how he'd like to go back to Navarro. I thought this was quite the strange bit of dialogue, considering that particular planet was, in light of this episode's events, the place that the child had its blood drained. We then caught up with Cara Dune and Greef Karga and how they're maintaining the peace on their territory. Alcoholics and hungry scavengers haven't just disappeared since the removal of the Imperial presence. You might recognize these fellas being the same species as that ugly guy who got his arm chopped off in Star Wars. They are dealt with in truly mixed martial arts fashion, with only one blast from her pistol. I thought this was great at showing her character's resistance to killing these guys. She has a reputation to maintain now that she's the Marshal. Mando arrived and Karga got his cronies to fix up his ship. Side note, what the hell is going on with your beard, Carl? In case you didn't notice, this squatting mechanic here is the one who was seen at the end revealing to have placed a tracking device on Mando's ship. The characters then strolled through town, thriving with trade, even erecting a memorial statue for IG-11, who is very sorely missed. The sun is truly shining on Navarro. Even the bar that was nearly destroyed by the end of season 1 has been turned into a school. This proved to be another hilarious and adorable segment, with all the kids whispering behind his back and not sharing. If the child learned anything from this class, it's that kids can be bloody cruel. However, it was rather concerning seeing this kid and Baby Yoda eating spotchka-infused macaroons. Coming soon to Disneyland! Mando then met up with a third familiar character who, if I've said it once, I'll say it again, I was not expecting to make a return. Greef calls him a pollywog, and I honestly thought he was just being racist, but apparently pollywog is another name for a tadpole. I really should know this because of that Stranger Things episode, but hey, you learn something new every day, right? They reveal that there's still an active Imperial base just outside their zero emissions zone. After last week's Imperial shenanigans, how could Mando turn down an offer to blow up more imps? When they reached the base, I loved the pettiness of Mithril and Greef's arguments. His cowardice and complaining that he'll dry out was just so funny. I mean, what an arsehole. He has 3PO's characteristics with R2's ability to unlock doors. He might as well be a droid. He's then tasked with overloading the reactor or something in a similar fashion as when Obi-Wan lowered the tractor beam all those years ago. I did get that tingling sensation in my feet watching this moment, especially during this high-angle shot, slowly zooming in on the rupturing lava below. The gang then found the real purpose of the station, with more of that taking secrets to the grave idea. Once again, the officers were more concerned with torching their unethical work upon discovery, probably receiving orders to take cyanide capsules in the event of capture. I think it was fantastic that it took an entire season's worth of episodes to get get an explanation as to what exactly the Empire was doing with the child. All that's made clear is that, like vampires, the Empire needed blood with a high midichlorian count to pump into test subjects. Or maybe they're making clones with the blood. Regardless, this all ultimately led to failure. Or so we're made to believe by this message left by Dr. Pershing. This suddenly made the creation of people with Jedi powers a possibility. What kind of horribly powerful creatures does Moff Gideon potentially have hidden away? After a whole bunch of fade wipes during the fight sequences, which I fully admit I do not use enough of those in these reviews, Mando flew back home to protect the child. It was great that this Imperial bus thing has the same design as the vehicle that unloaded all those stormtroopers when Moff Gideon showed up last year. If you listen closely during the chase sequence, you'll hear that percussion sound from the score they used during that scene too. Once again, the stunning visual and sound effects give this vehicle some real weight to it, justifying its bulletproof design. How it crushed the old speeder too was just hilarious, though I was surprised there weren't any windows in the cockpit. That was quite the serious weak spot. Then again, the Empire does have a thing for weak spots. The gang were then chased in this valley by the speeder bike boys. There was some great foreshadowing of this earlier when the gang were about to enter the base, feeding off the memory of those times in Series 1 when they killed Queel and abused Baby Yoda. More of that reckless incompetence was seen as two speeders just smashed into each other on the way down. The tension escalated when the TIE fighters had the high ground though. Like in the Dragon episode, the chase sequence goes from 2 dimensions to 3 dimensions. Add to that the fact our characters don't have any plot immunity, it makes smashing into rocks all the more impactful and knicker gripping. Did I actually just use the phrase knicker gripping in a Mandalorian review? Oh, my mum is going to be proud. I think we all knew deep down that Mando was going to come in at the last moment to save the day. The idea that he just picked up his kid from school had me in stitches, especially considering the child still had those macaroons in his hand, thrilled at the roller coaster ride Dad has just taken him on. The ship is fixed up to an impressive degree, though how long it will last in this condition remains to be seen. To hear the end credits music playing prematurely here as well filled me with joy. Even the child vomiting was a scenario most who have infants are accustomed to, but the karmic nature of this moment was what made it so enjoyable, if a little gross. In the epilogue, we caught up with the new Republican pilot again. It was interesting that Greef kept the intent of the base a secret, almost as though the new Republic wouldn't bat an eyelid for little old Navarro unless there was an Imperial entanglement. His aversion towards authority in the Outer Rim was very understandable too, given that even the Empire couldn't hold it.
This isn't Coruscant.
But boy, do I wish we could see Coruscant these days. Heck, this mere mention of core worlds has me super interested too. With the budget this show is boasting of, I don't see why this can't be done. To think there's already some division within the New Republic. Ideas like that are exactly what I was excited about when talking about developing this new faction of authority in the galaxy. I loved this final shot of Kara as well, presenting this idea of her losing everyone visually whilst surrounded by her new home that she's made for herself. Good lord though, the shot from beneath the big Imperial ship was so breathtaking. This final little tease scene at the end of the episode served as more setup for episodes to come, but it really did make me curious as to what exactly these black suit things are. They look more terrifying than the black troopers displayed last season. Do they have anything to do with the child's blood? It certainly looks more scientific than merely a hangar full of troopers. If we have a closer look at their hands though, they look kind of prosthetic, so maybe they're droids. One last thing I want to mention though, I always love these majestic concept art pieces during the credits sequence. For example, it was interesting that they changed the teacher from a person to a droid, and the little squirrel thing the scavengers were about to kill and eat was originally intended to breathe fire. Instead of depriving us of potentialities, the show deliberately shows us what goes through the imaginations of the people involved, what they set out to achieve, and admit their limitations. God, I love this show! Thanks for watching. Please consider supporting these analyses videos by making a pledge on my Patreon page. What did you think of this episode? Comment below your thoughts or join us for a chinwag on my Discord server, where we'll continue this discussion. Blurble gurgle herba derp nerp.